Let's take a look at innovation and change. Progress is impossible without change. Change is faster than ever, and the period between 2015 and 2020 is posed to redefine virtually every facet of how we live and work. Thus, company recruiters seek employees with the skill of adaptability to change. Creativity is a way of thinking that generates new ideas and that creatively can lead to innovation. Innovation is the implementation of a new idea. But creativity doesn't count until it's implemented through innovation. Two important types of innovation are product innovation and process innovation. Thus, all innovations require some changes to be made in the organization. Organizational change is the alterations of existing work routines and strategies that affect the whole organization. Innovation requires risks, and successfully fast growing companies are greater in terms of innovative risk taking as they have the advantage of opportunity. Unfortunately, failing to take risks and change with the environment can lead to decline. Here are three forces that lead to changes in business. Businesses must adapt to change. An organization interacts with its internal and external global environments, and these factors require adaptive change in an organization, and the environment is becoming increasingly global, dynamic, complex, and competitive. Sometimes change is required from within, and other times it's mandated by the external environment. An important external factor includes keeping up with competitors' innovations. A technology cycle begins with the birth of a new technology and ends when it's replaced by a newer, sustainably better technology. Change requires conceptual skills to understand the problems associated with changing environments and to make decisions to adapt, effectively implementing the management functions to make the changes. Most plans that managers develop require change. When managers organize and delegate tasks, they often require employees to make some changes in their regular routine. Leadership calls for influencing employees, and control may require the use of new methods. Types of change refer to what actually changes in an organization. The four types of change are changes in strategy, in structure, in technology, and in people. Because of the systems effect, you need to consider the repercussions of a change in one variable on the others and plan accordingly. Changes in the environment often require changes in strategy. Structure refers to how the organization is departmentalized into work units. Structure commonly follows strategy. The systems process is the technology used to transform inputs into outputs, and the technology doesn't have to be high tech. So, technology is an essential part of the systems process, and how we do our jobs does change. Organizations can't change without changes in people by adapting to new behaviors. A change in team membership is a common type of people change. A change in an organizational culture is also considered a people change. People develop and implement strategy and structure. People also create, manage, and use technology. Therefore, people are the most important resource. Change in other variables will not be effective without people. Change also takes one of two broad forms, incremental or discontinuous. Incremental change is a continual improvement that takes place within the existing technology cycle. Companies innovate by lowering costs and improving performance of existing products and services. Discontinuous change is a significant breakthrough in technology that leads to design competition and a new technology cycle, such as a mobile connectivity and apps. The technology adoption curve illustrates how people will adapt. Formal organizational structures are needed to coordinate internal services. Organizations that stimulate innovation are commonly structured as flat organizations with limited bureaucracy. They use small team structures. Use of informal authority is common, and authority is decentralized. Many innovative organizations set up skunkworks projects. A skunkworks project is one typically developed by a small and loosely structured group of people who research and develop a project primarily for the sake of radical innovation. Employees need to take ownership and pride in being part of an innovative culture. The successful organizations encourage creativity and innovation. A method of encouraging risk taking is through encouraging intrapreneurs, people who start a new line of business for an existing company. Part of being flexible is letting employees work on ideas that doesn't seem practical or related to the business. With an open system, you seek innovation from within and outside the firm. Many companies today are turning to their customers, suppliers, and others for innovation. People tend to go through four distinct stages when facing change. The four stages of the change process are denial, resistance, exploration, and commitment. Denial. Changes are often difficult to understand or accept, so when people first hear that change is coming, they may deny that it will affect them. Resistance. Once people get over the initial shock and realize that change is going to be a reality, they often resist change. Exploration. When the change begins to be implemented, employees explore the change, often through training, and ideally, they begin to better understand how it will affect them. Commitment. Through exploration, employees determine their level of commitment to making the change a success. Commitment is necessary to implement the change, but some employees continue to resist. The stages are in a circular formation because change is an ongoing process. We don't want to change our habits and our routines. Some people deliberately try to kill good ideas, and others beat the system for their advantage as they attempt to block change efforts. Uncertainty tends to make us react defensively by denying the need for change and allows us to rationalize that we don't really need to change. For many of us, the prospect of learning something new produces anxiety. It's called learning anxiety. We realize that new learning may make us temporarily incompetent and may expose us to rejection by valued groups. We tend to resist change that threatens our own self-interest. Change creates winners and losers. With change in jobs that might possibly be lost. Change may involve an economic loss as a result of a pay cut, as an example. Change can also result in actual or perceived loss of power, status, security, and especially control. When we're successful, we tend to think change is not needed. Even when we do change, we can fall back to old habits that have worked in the past. Do you really like your daily routine disrupted? If you can't change your mind and embrace change, you can't change anything. So aim to cultivate a mindset that embraces change in ourselves and in others. Have you ever wondered why people do illogical things? It helps to realize that our brains cling to habit at the exclusion of all else, including common sense. Companies do create new habits with changes. They are commonly called procedures and rules for completing new tasks. Change projects rarely claim to the substantial success that is intended, but there are 7 major things you can do in addition to changing your attitude and habits to overcome resistance to successfully make change. Develop a positive trust and a climate for change. Implementing changes successfully requires good planning. You need to identify the possible resistance to change and plan to overcome it. Clearly state why the change is needed and how it will affect people. Create a win-win situation. We all have the desire to win. The goal of human relations is to meet employee needs while achieving organizational objectives. To create a win-win situation, involve employees. A commitment to change is usually critical to its successful implementation. Provide support and evaluation. Employees need to know that managers are there to help them cope with change. When you decide on a change, you have to move fast. Create urgency. Many people procrastinate from making changes. If something is perceived as urgent, it's given high priority and is done immediately. Before making changes, you should anticipate how others will react. People will have different attitudes towards change. There are 3 major sources of resistance to change. The facts, provable statements about an impending change are often circulated through the grapevine, but people tend to use facts selectively to prove their point. Facts can be provided, beliefs cannot. Beliefs are subjective opinions that can be shaped by others. Values are what people believe are worth pursuing or doing. What we value is important to us and influences our behavior. There are 3 major forces of resistance to change. Self. People naturally want to know what's in it for me. What do I have to gain or lose? Others. After considering what's in it for them and concluding that a change does not affect them, people tend to consider how the change will affect their friends, peers, and colleagues. The work environment includes the physical setting, the work itself, and the climate. People like to control this environment. Once you have identified the probable resistance to change, you can work at overcoming it. OD interventions are specific actions taken to implement specific changes. Training and development are listed first because they often focus on the individual, and the other interventions often include some form of training. Training is the process of developing skills, behaviors, and attitudes to be used on the job. Sensitivity training take place with a group of 10 or 15 people. The training sessions have no agenda. People learn about how their behavior affects others and how others' behavior affects theirs. Team building is an OD intervention designed to help work groups increase structural and team dynamics and performance. Process consultation is often part of team building, but is commonly used as a separate, more narrowly focused intervention. Process consultation is an OD intervention designed to improve team dynamic. Force field analysis is an OD intervention that diagrams the current level of performance, the forces hindering change, and the forces driving towards change. The process is to list the hindering and driving forces and make the desired change. Collecting feedback is one of the oldest and most popular OD techniques at the department, division, and organizational level. Survey feedback is an OD intervention that uses a questionnaire to gather data to use as the basis for change. Large group intervention is an OD technique that brings together participants from all parts of the organization and often key outside stakeholders to solve problems or take advantage of opportunity. A major difference between large group interventions and the other OD interventions is the focus on functional diversity and inclusion of key stakeholders. Work design refers to organizational structure. Work can be designed as an individual job, as a job for a group to perform, or by departmentalization. Direct feedback is an OD intervention in which the change agent makes a direct recommendation for change. In certain situations, the most efficient intervention is to have a change agent make a direct recommendation for a specific change. The trend today is to use more outside consultants as change agents. Entrepreneurs are a driving force for innovation and change worldwide. When people think of entrepreneurship, they often tend to think of small business. However, in the global business environment, organizations of all types and sizes are becoming more entrepreneurial. A new venture is a new business or a new line of business. Entrepreneurs commonly start new small business ventures. Intrapreneurs commonly start a new line of business within a larger organization. They're also called corporate entrepreneurs and organizational entrepreneurs. In essence, intrapreneurs commonly start and run small businesses within large organizations, often as a separate business unit. Entrepreneurship activities include creating new products or processes, entering new markets, or creating new business ventures and organizations or productivity techniques. But no new venture is started without entrepreneurial activities, and existing businesses seek employees with entrepreneurial behavioral skills. The number of colleges teaching students how to be entrepreneurial is increasing. The legal definition of small varies by country and industry. In the United States, the Small Business Administration, known as the SBA, establishes small business size standards on an industry by industry basis. For our purposes, we blend two definitions. A small business is a business that is independently owned and operated with a small number of employees and relatively low volumes of sales. To be successful at anything requires taking calculated risks, and one of the important traits of entrepreneurs is they're risk takers. Entrepreneurs don't actually get a real paycheck. They get profits or losses. They commonly risk personal assets as they finance part or all of their business and run the risk of losing their investment. A very important risk consideration is the choice of being an entrepreneur.